Ever get that feeling like you're standing right at the edge of something totally new?
Oh, yeah.
A new city you've never been to,
Oh.
or a job that really pushes you, maybe even just a big new idea. And there's that like buzz, excitement, but a little bit of hesitation mixed in.
Yeah, yeah.
We're going to explore that feeling today, but through kind of a unique lens, the metaphor of bridges.
Okay.
So for this deep dive, we've got an academic paper and a personal essay, both focused on bridges in Nova Friburgo, Brazil.
Interesting.
But what's really cool is that these sources, they don't just talk about bridges as, physical things. They use bridges as symbols for really any kind of journey we take in life.
Oh, I like that.
Both internal and external,
Yeah, that's such a great way to look at transitions, transformations, all those connections we make along the way. Because bridges, right, they represent movement, going from somewhere, to somewhere unknown.
Exactly.
And that always takes courage, don't you think?
For sure. One of the sources, it actually has this quote. I'll try my best with the pronunciation.
Good for it.
Cruzar uma ponte não é um ato passivo. Exige movimento, coragem, implicação.
Ah, beautiful.
So basically it's saying crossing a bridge, it's not just a passive thing.
Right.
It takes action, bravery. You're really committing to that journey.
Yeah, you're all in. You're not just dipping your toes in.
Mm-hmm.
And that idea, it becomes even more powerful when you think about who wrote the essay. He's a stranger himself in Nova Friburgo.
Oh, interesting.
His perspective on belonging, or, well, maybe more accurately, the struggles of belonging, it's really insightful. He asks this question, and I'll translate it for you. The stranger, among setting foot on this land, faces a dilemma. Does he risk the crossing or remain on the sidelines?
Wow.
He gets right to the heart of it, right?
Yeah.
That choice we all have in a new situation. We cross the bridge or play it safe, stay where we are.
Stick to the familiar.
Exactly.
And it's cool how he brings in his personal experiences, too.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about how his son, looking at just this basic little footbridge, he named it Ponte de Ilusão.
The Bridge of Illusion.
Yeah, because he saw, I think it was a bird, disappear under it. Like the bridge became this magical portal in the kid's mind.
That's so great. It really shows how, as humans, we project our own hopes, fears, even expectations onto the unknown.
Oh, totally.
And speaking of crossing bridges, literal or metaphorical, can't forget about the fear that often comes with it.
Right, right.
Both sources actually dive into this idea that fear, it's just part of any transition.
Like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. And in the essay, he's adamant that fear shouldn't be what stops us. He says, let me see if I can remember the exact quote.
Take your time.
A verdadeira loucura é ficar parado e não ousar atravessar. Meaning, the truly crazy thing is to just stand still.
To not even try.
Right, not daring to cross at all.
So, if not crossing is what's crazy, then crossing, even if it's scary, is actually the sane choice, the necessary choice.
That's a really interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. He's not saying fear disappears.
Right.
But it shouldn't be what makes the decision for us. And he goes on to say that the first bridge we actually have to cross, it's the one inside ourselves.
Ooh, I like that.
It's that inner confrontation with our doubts, our limitations.
That makes sense.
That's what lets us tackle those outside challenges.
So before we build those connections with the outside world, new places, new people, we have to build that bridge inward first, to our own strength.
Exactly.
What I find really interesting is that both sources, they paint this picture of Nova Friburgo as super diverse, a real melting pot. They use the word misturous, this idea of blend.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Because it ties right back to the bridge metaphor. Think of the city itself as a bridge, right? Made up of all these different tijolos diversos.
Diverse bricks.
Yeah. Each one making the whole structure stronger.
So each story, each cultural influence, it's all part of what makes the city what it is. It's like its foundation.
Exactly.
Wouldn't you say that bridges, especially in a place like Nova Friburgo with all that diversity, they have this power to act like mirrors?
Absolutely. There's a really powerful line in one of the sources in Nova Friburgo. A ponte é também espelho. Ela reflete quem somos e quem podemos ser. So in Nova Friburgo, the bridge isn't just about getting from A to B.
Yeah.
It's reflecting who we are and who we could be.
It's like by looking outward at the city, all those different bricks, we also see ourselves maybe in ways we hadn't thought about before. Like that reflection shows us parts of ourselves we didn't know were there, potential we haven't tapped into.
Exactly.
This reminds me of something else the author talks about, the Heraclitus River metaphor. You know, the idea that you can't step in the same river twice.
Oh, classic.
Because it's always flowing, always changing, so it's never the same river.
Right. And he connects that to personal growth, talking about the importance of fluir toma vida.
To flow with life.
Embracing change, not resisting it.
So it's not about crossing one bridge to get to some final destination.
Nope.
It's more like Life's a bunch of bridges, constantly in motion, and we have to adapt and flow along with it.
Exactly. So now, thinking about your own life,
Yeah.
what are some of those bridges you've crossed? Or maybe even more importantly, what are the ones you're still a little hesitant to approach? It's interesting how the author ties this whole bridge crossing thing into, like, our sense of identity. He says Nova Furburgo, with all those misturas, that mix of cultures, it really makes us question what we think we know about belonging.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like you're saying, our identities, they're not fixed. They change as we have new experiences, encounter different ways of life.
Kind of like the city itself, always changing.
Exactly. He even says, and I'll translate this for you, here, being a stranger is not a geographical condition, but a state of mind.
Ooh, that's deep.
It's about being open to things you don't know, willing to go outside your comfort zone.
So even if we're physically somewhere familiar,
Hmm.
we can still have that stranger mindset, that curiosity, that openness, and that's when real change can happen, right?
That's it. Crossing a bridge, moving to a new city, or even just trying a new food. It's not about the destination. It's about how we change along the way.
So embracing that feeling of being a stranger, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable, it can help us grow and understand the world better.
Totally. And that's even more important now with everything so connected. Being able to bridge those cultural divides, connect with people from different backgrounds, that's huge.
The author makes a great point about how Nova Furburgo itself, it's like a testament to that, built on that idea of misturas. I love how he describes it like it's built with tijolos diversos, diverse bricks.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Such a strong image, like each person, each culture adds something unique, makes the city stronger, more beautiful.
And that reminds us, diversity isn't something to just, like, tolerate. It's something to celebrate. It's what gives a community life, what makes it strong, like Nova Furburgo.
Okay, so we've got bridges as personal growth, embracing the unknown, and celebrating diversity. But we have to admit, there's also an element of fear in all this, right?
For sure. The author acknowledges that. Crossing any bridge, real or metaphorical, it comes with fear. He says, let me translate this one too. There's no crossing without fear. But he doesn't leave it at that. He goes on to say that the real danger is letting that fear paralyze us,
Right, like freeze us in place.
stopping us from moving forward.
Yeah. He says the real madness is to stand still, is not to dare to cross. Like the biggest risk we can take is not taking any risks at all, staying stuck in our comfort zones.
It's so true. And we've all been there, right? Hesitating at the edge of something new, not sure if we should go for it.
Oh, totally.
But like the author says, growth and transformation, those often happen on the other side of that fear.
He's not telling us to ignore the fear, but not to let it be in charge.
Right. And he even goes further, saying that facing our fears, that's a key part of self-discovery. Remember we talked about that first bridge we have to cross being the internal one?
Oh, yeah. The first bridge to cross is the inner one. We have to do that work on ourselves, face those internal blocks before we can really connect with anything outside of ourselves.
Exactly. Building that foundation of self-awareness, resilience, it's so important, especially if you're feeling lost, unsure about where you're going.
He's saying, hey, before you build any bridges outward to new places, new people, build that bridge to yourself first. Know what makes you tick, your strengths, your weaknesses. That's how you truly connect with others.
And that takes courage, doesn't it? Being honest with yourself, facing the parts of yourself you might not want to see.
But it's also super empowering, right? Once you've crossed that bridge inside yourself, built that foundation, you can handle the external challenges better, those bridges that connect you to the wider world.
Exactly. And that's where what the author says about Nova Furburgo becomes really powerful. He talks about how the city's like a mirror, showing us who we are and who we could become. Remember that line? In Nova Furburgo, the bridge is also a mirror. Like engaging with this diverse place, crossing those metaphorical bridges of cultural understanding, it helps us understand ourselves better.
It's like stepping outside our own little bubbles and seeing different ways of life. Makes us question what we thought we knew, opens up our minds, helps us grow.
And Nova Furburgo, with its history of misturas, that blending of cultures, it's like the perfect setting for that. You can't help but confront your own biases, your own ideas about belonging.
And that confrontation, as tough as it might be, it's what leads to growth and understanding. It helps us see the world and ourselves differently.
It shows how crossing those metaphorical bridges can take us to new places, but also to new ways of understanding ourselves and our place in the world.
And it reminds us that that self-discovery, it's never really over. It's not like you reach a point and say, okay, I'm not a stranger anymore. It's a process, always growing, adapting, connecting.
I think that's a great point.
His message is ultimately one of hope, encouragement. He's saying venturing into the unknown, that's what makes life rich and meaningful.
He wants us to embrace the unknown, be brave enough to cross those bridges, trust that we'll end up right where we need to be.
It's a powerful thought, isn't it?
It's a call to action. He's calling us to be bridge builders, using our own experiences, our own crossings, to create connections and understanding.
And remembering that building bridges, it's not passive. It takes effort, intention, a willingness to step outside that comfort zone.
Right, right.
I'm realizing now these bridges aren't just about personal growth or cultural understanding. They're metaphors for how we approach life itself.
I think you're onto something there. That actually brings us to another big theme in both sources. Change. How change is always happening.
Oh, yeah, the Heraclitus River thing. You can never step into the same river twice. Everything's in flux, always shifting, transforming.
It's a powerful reminder that nothing stays the same. Life is about change and adapting to it.
So it's not about reaching one final destination, but about going on the journey, adapting, and reinventing ourselves along the way.
Exactly. And when we see life that way, like a series of bridge crossings, each new challenge, it becomes an opportunity for growth.
It's like the author saying, look, life's going to throw you curveballs, obstacles, detours, times when you feel totally lost. It's all part of it.
And the key is learning how to handle those twists and turns, adapt, evolve as things change.
He even uses the phrase fluir con a vida, to flow with life. It's about letting go, trusting, and even when things feel uncertain, there's a natural flow that'll guide us.
That's a powerful idea, especially when the world feels so chaotic and unpredictable.
Like we don't always have to be in control. Sometimes it's better to just trust the process.
But flowing with life, it's not about just letting things happen to you passively, right? It's about being adaptable, being brave enough to face whatever comes up and find a way through it.
Exactly. Being resilient, resourceful, letting go of what's not working anymore, and embracing the new possibilities that come with each change.
He's encouraging us to become masters of change, to see those times of transition, not as threats, but as opportunities to grow, reinvent ourselves.
It's a whole different mindset, approaching life with curiosity, excitement, instead of fear, resistance.
He's like, don't be afraid to let go of what you know. Step into the unknown, embrace the flow of life, trust it, see where it takes you. And I have a feeling it could lead to amazing places.
That's inspiring.
I completely agree. And it's striking how he brings all these ideas together at the end.
Oh, you mean when he talks about crossing bridges as an act of faith?
Yes, it's about trusting that even when we can't see the path ahead, there's something guiding us, supporting us as we take those steps into the unknown.
And that's where that beautiful line comes in, right? Perhaps madness is not crossing any bridge at all. He's saying the real danger is staying put, not taking those leaps of faith that life asks of us.
It's a powerful way to end. A call to action, an invitation to embrace the adventure, even with all the uncertainty.
It's like he's saying, I know it can be scary to leave your comfort zone, face the unknown, but the real magic happens when you cross those bridges. Embrace the flow, see where it takes you.
And that message, I think it speaks to all of us, no matter where we are in our own journeys.
It reminds us that we all have bridges to cross, challenges to overcome, new things to discover. And it's the courage to take those first steps, to trust the process that leads to growth, connection, a life well lived.
Beautifully said. And what's so compelling about this author is that he doesn't just give us a way to think about life's journey, he gives us practical advice for how to handle those crossings.
Oh, that's true. He doesn't just say cross the bridge. He gives us actual tools, insights, so we can approach those crossings with more confidence.
Exactly. He talks about self-awareness, facing our fears, embracing diversity, being adaptable and resilient. Those are essential qualities for anyone trying to navigate life's transitions smoothly and with purpose.
He's given us a roadmap for bridge building, both inside ourselves and in the world around us. A roadmap that's all about personal growth, connection, and being open to the unknown.
And I think we can all learn from that no matter what bridges we're facing.
We've covered so much already, but there's still more to unpack. I think it's time to switch gears a bit and talk about something that really stuck with me. The author's own experiences crossing those bridges in Nova Friburgo.
Yes, his personal stories really bring these ideas to life.
What makes his story so powerful is how he shares those times when he felt like he didn't belong. He's not just talking about these ideas, he actually lived them.
It makes his perspective much more relatable. He reminds us we're not alone in those feelings. Even someone who studies these concepts, who I chose to go to a new culture, they still struggle with belonging.
He talks about when he first got to Nova Friburgo and how he felt this sense of awe at the city's history and traditions, but also this excitement about being there.
That's the stranger experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
That mix of wonder and uncertainty, that pull towards something new, but also feeling a bit intimidated. We've all been there, right?
Absolutely. And then he tells that story about his son naming the footbridge Pont des Illusions, the Bridge of Illusion.
Oh, right.
Because he saw a bird disappear under it. It's such a small moment, but it really stuck with me.
It shows how powerful a child's imagination can be.
Mm-hmm.
They see magic, where adults might just see an ordinary thing. It's a reminder to keep that sense of wonder even as we grow up.
And for me, it ties back to that idea of illusion that's in the whole essay. The bridges we build in our minds, those stories we tell ourselves about what might be on the other side,
Right?
those can be just as real as the actual physical bridges.
That's a great point. We have to be aware of those internal stories, those limiting beliefs. They might be what keeps us from crossing those metaphorical bridges in our own lives.
Sometimes the biggest obstacles are the ones we create for ourselves, right?
Exactly.
What I found powerful was how honest he is about the tough parts. He doesn't pretend being an outsider is all romantic. He talks about fear, self-doubt, struggling to find where he fits in.
I think that's what makes it so powerful. Crossing those bridges, going to a new city, a new relationship, even just a new way of thinking. It's not always easy. It takes effort. There are going to be challenges.
Right.
He even says, let me translate this for you. There is no crossing without fear. Fear is a natural part of the process. It's what we do with it that matters.
Exactly.
What's so inspiring is that he doesn't let fear control him. He chooses to cross those bridges, even when it's hard, even when he doesn't know what's on the other side.
And by going through those experiences, he learns how powerful it is to embrace the unknown, to be open to new experiences and ways of thinking. He talks about how Nova Friburgo, with all its diversity and its history of misturas, that blending of cultures, it made him confront his own biases, his own ideas about belonging.
That kind of challenge, it could be tough, but it's often what helps us grow and understand more deeply. It's when we start to see the world and ourselves in a new way.
It shows how crossing those metaphorical bridges, it's not just about getting to a new place, it's about learning new things about ourselves and how we fit into the world.
And it reminds us that self-discovery is a journey. It's not about reaching one point and being done. It's always evolving, adapting, connecting with new things.
His final message is about hope and encouragement. He reminds us that those times when we step into the unknown, they're what make life rich and meaningful.
He wants us to embrace the unknown, be brave enough to cross those bridges, and trust that the journey will take us where we need to be.
It's a beautiful thought to leave our listeners with. What about you? What are some of the bridges you're facing right now? What would it take for you to find that courage to cross them?
Remember, every bridge we cross, every step outside our comfort zone, it's a chance to grow, connect, and learn more about ourselves. Embrace the unknown, trust the process, see where it takes you.
Beautifully said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into bridges, belonging, and the courage to cross. Until next time, MCO Har.